Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
And I looked up and saw an airplane coming by me with a torpedo under it, heading for the harbor. And the plane had a great big rising sun on the side of it. I rushed out to the front of the building and watched that plane go down and drop a torpedo, and saw it hit the Oklahoma. And from then on, it was just mayhem. After that, things quieted down. The harbor was still burning. The explosions were still occurring. But Pearl Harbor, you don't forget that. Ever.
I've always been intrigued by history. I'm not a scholar in history, but I enjoy learning about history and helping others learn about history along with me. And I like to have meaning to things that we do as a band and have a connection for the kids, so it's not just notes on a page or a show that has no meaning. So when I saw this event and I saw the historical impact and value it could have, that intrigued me all the more because I knew then it would have meaning.
I was contacted by our band director, Pam Diem, and said that we had the opportunity to apply to perform as part of the 75th anniversary of the bombing and the attack on Pearl Harbor. So she and I discussed and in the end said, yeah, let's throw our hat in the ring and see what happens. And lo and behold, we were selected.
And then the wheels just started spinning on to how to create a marching band show to honor and represent and educate the students on what they're about to do. And that's where the show came about for Heroes. KMS is unique in the fact that we're a very small school and our kids are in everything. They are in band and choir and sports and FFA and BPA. They do everything, and I think that's an advantage of a small school. It's also a disadvantage because they sometimes can get spread really thin. But I also love KMS because I have them from 5th grade all the way through 12th grade. And there's a connection there, an understanding and a respect, a mutual respect.
Mrs. Diem is the kind of teacher where she's intimidating, but yet she's funny and you can joke around with her and have fun with her. She's a really good teacher. She definitely knows how to have a good band.
Mrs. Diem definitely has high expectations for us. She knows what she wants and she expects us to get there because she knows we can get there. And she doesn't let us sell ourselves short, or she doesn't accept good enough. She always knows, I mean, up to the day of our final performance in marching band, we're getting better. She's changing things, trying to fine-tune it and make it as good as it possibly can be.
Here we go, 1, 2,
So I thought the World War II concept. And so then I did a lot of research on World War II and what was the music of that time and what was the impact of music on that era. Then I designed the show around the music that I picked, and I kept coming back to these two photographs that were iconic to the World War II era. And so then I wanted to figure out how could I incorporate these, you know, recreations of these iconic photos, and then it just sort of all fell into place.
Like, nobody really knows how much time we put into it, but we had multiple 7 to 9 hour practices and 7 to 12, and there were so many practices, but it was worth it because everybody loved our show. Like, it was the show to see, pretty much. Everybody wanted to see us.
I was constantly worried about pushing the kids too hard. You know, there was a lot of demands as our show, you know, got out there, and as our event that we were going to got out there, we were asked to do a lot of things. Everything I threw out at them, they grasped onto. They knew they were doing it for a purpose and for a reason, and they showed up.
We kind of did a reenactment of Iwo Jima, and as a drummer I got to turn around, face the flag, the whole band did, and they set up the Iwo Jima pose with the American flag. And so I got to face the crowd, and pretty much every time there would be a veteran there saluting the flag. It was really powerful.
It just really touched all of us. It was super quiet at the end. Like, you always expect people to cheer super loud, but everyone had their hands on their hearts, and it was just really quiet and really an emotional time for everyone, but I thought it was really cool.
And I believe veterans, the reason they supported this adventure, this event so much was, I believe they are fearful of their stories being lost and forgotten. They love talking to the kids about it because they're so afraid they're not learning about it. And they want their stories told. They want them to learn their stories.
The community played a big role in our, well, this whole year actually, but then our trip to Hawaii. Through donations and just everything, like helping and putting on fundraisers and whatnot, they helped get all of our members that wanted to go to Hawaii. They gave the money, the time, the effort. Our community backed us really well for this whole thing.
We weren't going to Hawaii just to have fun. We were going there to pay tribute to all of the people that gave their lives at Pearl Harbor and the entire war.
Everybody knows that World War II was a big thing for us and that it meant a lot, but you don't really see that just on their face every day. But when you go and play and honor them through your playing, you can kind of see more and more like all the sacrifices that they actually had to make.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Being a part of the mass band was an experience none of us, I think, could have been prepared for. We've been part of mass bands of, a couple hundred people. Well, this was 1,600. So just, getting that many people all on the same page and in the same setting was a feat among itself. The sound was insane.
When we were about halfway through the performance, looking up at this big ship in front of me, and then I looked down a little bit and I saw the tent of survivors from Pearl Harbor. I just remembered I had to stop playing for a second and kind of take it all in that 75 years ago, like, they were here and they experienced this.
When we got to the program, I found out that there was going to be a band from Minnesota entertaining us. It made me feel real good to hear that the young people were anticipating in this 75th anniversary, because it was going to bring home the realization to them that history had a meaning.
The most emotional memory was definitely the USS Arizona. We took a boat there, and you get on it and you walk over the actual ship and you can see its outline. And the oil, I mean, I had heard about the oil, but there's so much, it's unreal.
We had kind of a tour guide there talking to us. I remember he said, people like to say that the oil is the tears of the brothers and they're not going to stop crying until their last brother comes home. And I just remember I got goosebumps when he said that.
And then when you got on the memorial and saw all the names and the somber outlook that was from all the people that were on the memorial at the time, it's pretty astonishing, I guess, in a way, just to think that there was men still in there and underneath you because they gave their life for you.
As you can see, I was accepted into the Naval Academy, and you see the guys in uniform and the guys who have been in the military, and they're the leaders. In my mind, they were the guys I wanted to be like. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to have their experiences, and I wanted to serve and protect this country.
You know, when we were just starting this whole process, I just hoped that they would understand more about World War II. The ending after, I think the impact was times 100, because they got so much more out of it. I got so much more out of it than I ever thought possible.
The impact that this has had on our students, those young men and women who went over to be part of this anniversary. I think it was an opportunity to connect to an event 75 years ago that was so much bigger than our school, our communities, our state, our nation. You know, this was a world event. You know, it was a world war.
The music has connected these two generations. I think it's opened up dialogue. I think it was this particular show with this particular music that bridged that gap. In Hawaii, I would see students that once they've encountered veterans, now they're comfortable talking to veterans and going up and shaking their hand and saying thank you. I saw them do that in Hawaii to these Pearl Harbor survivors many times.
I think back to the feelings I had when I was there during the war. It's hard to recreate in somebody's mind what it's like to be in a war zone. I watched the Arizona blow up and 1,100 people die. I watched the Oklahoma turn over and 500 people died there. And you have a bond. With all those people, you know. It's just something you can't forget. It still bothers me, as you can tell by my voice. Something you never forget. War is not the solution. It's usually the cause of all the problems. I think we found that out in the last 2 world wars. They didn't solve anything, and the world is still divided, which is too bad.
Visit pioneer.org/postcards to catch up on missed episodes and to find out more about your favorite segments. This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. The Arrowwood Resort and Conference Center, your ideal choice for Minnesota resorts, offering luxury townhomes, 18 holes of golf, Darling Reflections Spa, Big Splash Water Park, and much more. Alexandria, Minnesota. Explore hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for a great vacation or a place to hold an event. ExploreAlex.com. Tri-State Brain and Spine Institute, with locations in Alexandria, Edina, Crookston, and Maple Grove. Doctors dedicated to evaluating and treating all types of brain and spine problems, no matter how complex.